Okay.
Cool. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Satya, you sound very deep.
I just came back from Beacon, so yeah.
Oh, you're sad and depressed. That was your sad and depressed voice.
That's right.
Ivy, we've got to work on your lighting. Oh, there you are. Nice. Mary, who we know that Nathan is not going to be here. Who else are we missing that might be here? Go. I know Ala can't be here. She's on site.
Tom can be there.
I think Tom and Ala and Nathan were the only ones that declined.
All right. So we've got Kelly, Kristen, Ivy. Yeah. So Rhonda, we are all here and accounted for.
Okay.
And I'm going to bolt in about 30 minutes. So I will depart, but I wanted to kind of get this kicked off. So we are going to record this so you guys don't have to worry about taking, tremendous notes. And look at this as almost as if we're doing a beta test, although, we've kind of developed the program. I shouldn't say we've developed the program. Rhonda and I have walked through with a couple test projects. Hopefully you guys have had the opportunity to, test drive it over the weekend. I know that Gabby did a little bit. And so this is really all about, how we use the platform. And then as you guys are using it, feel free to send Mary an email and say, hey, if it did this, it would be awesome, or I'm having a hard time with that, and let her compile all of that. And then we'll schedule meetings with Rhonda so that we can be organized about updates or, getting this thing to a place that it's very, hopefully much more user-friendly than the spreadsheet that we've been doing. For Kristen and Kelly, I know this is new to you because I didn't burden you with the spreadsheet. So this will be kind of you're starting from scratch, not having to think about how we used to enter it in the spreadsheet. We're going straight into our database within the company platform. So for you guys, it'll be a little bit easier in some respects, but getting the initial data set up might be a little bit more of a challenge because the other folks have got the benefit of having that data in an existing spreadsheet. For Amanda, this is more informational. I think once we get the data uploaded, I'll be able to share some of the reporting functions with you. You'll find that really helpful because you're managing a lot of projects. So you can kind of pull reports for all the projects. And then of course, Mary as our, gatekeeper, keeps everything organized, trains running on time. Obviously, that's why she's here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda and say, this is your baby. Let's deliver this thing.
Okay. This is very exciting. All right. So you have all been set up in CRM or Dynamics now. Those two things get used interchangeably. If you don't have access, let me know and I will figure out what's going on. But on your single sign-on page, you should have an icon that looks like this, Dynamics 365/CRM. You will click on that, and it's going to bring you into this main screen. And this main screen is a project screen, and it's a list of all of the active projects. And by active projects, we are talking about anything that has a life cycle between prospecting all the way through operations. But last week, I shared with you individual views that I created for you to make your life a little bit easier so you're not having to sort of fish through this. If you drop down this box beside active projects, you will not see this many views, but you will see a design and construction projects, and then you should see a view just for your particular deals. And if you don't, let me know, because I basically went in and updated all of the deals based off of Jeff's spreadsheet. So some of you, like Kelly, I'm not recognizing your last name. Did you used to have another last name?
No, you have Draper, so that's who I'm replacing.
Okay, so I can change that and share it with you. So I'm going to just go into one of these and show you what you can do with it. So you see it's a much smaller list of deals, and it should be the deals that you are assigned to as the construction manager. If you don't see a deal here, right, you go back to this main design and construction projects. You should all have that. This is everything that's in the system that has a life cycle of pre-development, closing, planning, construction.
So let's do that real quickly, Rhonda. Take the 771, go back to Satya's screen, and let's see if we've got Bruce Monroe in that.
No.
No. So let's add that and go ahead and assign him as the project manager. So right
Okay.
now, Bruce Monroe is one of his projects.
So Bruce Monroe, hold on one second.
And the project ID is 100-771.
Okay, so give me 1 second. Let me just show you some other things on here, and then we'll dive into him, and I'll show you how to change the construction manager. So on this screen, this main screen, and I'm assuming that most of you have played very little, if any, in CRM, just because I had to set a lot of you up with an ID, so I'm assuming that you haven't been in. This main screen, you can search. So you can search up here by number or by name. And it's going to give you everything. So now what you'll see, though, that when it's returning also anything that's inactive as well. And that is by design. If you want your screen, your view, your personal view to be the main view that you come into, you can thumbtack it or pin it. So you can click on this, and when that's sort of at an angle, the next time I come in, this will now be my default view. So each of you, if you're really just dealing with your particular projects when you come in here, you can, the first time you go in, you can pin your personal view, and the next time you come into CRM, you're going to come into that personal view as opposed to the main active projects with all of the projects. And it's just, it will be easier for you to get in and do what you need to do. So let's go, I'm going to go back to design and construction projects, and we're going to look for Bruce Monroe. So on this particular one, you can double click to go in. I don't recommend double clicking to go in. I recommend right clicking and saying open in a new window. And the reason for that is you'll see it opens it in a new tab. And so if I want to open a different project, I can come back over here without closing my Bruce Monroe project and get back and open a different project. So in terms of navigating through the system, it's a hard habit to make, but once you make it, you'll be happy. If you get in the habit of right-clicking and opening in a new window, you'll be much happier because you won't get, you end up sort of having to go back if you want to go back multiple times to get back to that main screen, and then you sort of lose where you're at. So here is Bruce Monroe, and when you first come into the system, most likely this is the screen that you're going to come into. This is the main project profile screen, and you can see basically here are all the key contacts. This has all kinds of information on it. You can go poke around, you're not going to hurt anything, but your functionality is on a different form, still under project. And so up here above the project name, if you drop this down, you'll see a construction monitoring. And so this is your construction monitoring functionality and the primary place that you're going to be doing your work. You will have to do this the first time that you go into CRM and into a session. You will have to change this. Once you're in that session, you'll always default to this construction monitoring form. But when you leave Dynamics and then you come back in the next day, you're going to have, the first time you come in, you'll have to change this to construction monitoring. It does not allow us to default this particular screen for you. So here is this form, and a couple of things that are sort of standard across Dynamics. Anything that has a little padlock beside it means that it is a locked field. And that typically means either it's coming from somewhere else in CRM or it's coming from somewhere else external to CRM, like all of this Proforma data is getting pulled in from the Proforma on a nightly basis. So those are fields that are not editable for you. You can't edit them. You have to go to the source place to edit them if you need to. To change the construction manager, you'll see a construction manager field here, and that is the TCB construction manager. And if I put in, I use the last name, I tend, rather than the first and last name, because I tend to spell things incorrectly. And that's just me personally. So if the person is in there, which all of you guys should be in there because I've assigned deals to you, just type the last name and then click on this little magnifying glass, and then you can select them and save. And so now this will show up on, how do you say his name?
Satya.
Satya. This will show up on your personal view. So this is the field that dictates those personal views. If you need to add somebody new, so you've got basic contacts here. Again, this project manager, project supervisor are pulling from that main project screen. If you want to add someone, a contact, so architect and general contractor and third-party management, these are actually companies, not people. So you can come in here. So who is the architect on this deal?
Grimm and Parker.
Say it again.
Grimm and Parker. Grimm. And P is in Peter, Parker.
Like that?
Yep.
And so you notice they're not in the system. And so you can click this little new plus sign here, and it will come up and you can add them in. Do you happen to know their phone number?
Not right now, no.
Okay. You can go back and fill it in.
Yeah.
What city are they in? Let's at least put the city and state.
Washington, D.C.
So you could come back and fill that in.
Okay.
So now, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a quick question? If the architect is a vendor already, meaning that we pay them and it's in our Yardi or system, shouldn't it be there, or it's a double step?
It doesn't, vendors from Yardi don't tie into here. So it would only be there if somebody has set up a contact there. It'll be in here if somebody set it up as a contact, which is possible in some cases. If it's you know, somebody that we've been using for a while, they may be in here already for sure. So Satya, when you get ready to update, you can, I'm going to save that.
Okay.
You just come in here and click on Grimm and Parker now, and you can update any of their contact information.
Got it.
Okay. So that's sort of the basic, that's how all of these fields work. And then if we scroll down, so we have the next section, which is your construction budget and completion information. And like I said, these fields that have the little padlocks are all pulling from the Proforma on a nightly basis. So if you don't agree with these numbers, you need to work with the finance person that controls whatever Proforma you're looking at. This actual cost to date for Yardi, we will be pulling in the actual cost to date from the job cost. So you can see as things are getting into the Yardi system, you'll be able to see how much money is being accumulated against the construction contract and so forth. This construction type. So this construction type comes from the main screen, the main project screen. We have a group of options here: new construction, adaptive reuse, rehab, and combination. That is standard how we identify them. I know in the spreadsheet you guys have some other scenarios. If these particular choices are not working for you guys, then we can work with the development leadership to sort of modify this list. But at the moment, that's what it is. Theoretically, this should already be filled in by the time you guys are starting your work on a particular deal, because the project managers are supposed to be filling this in on the main project screen. But if they don't, you have the ability to select whatever the appropriate choice is here, and it will go, it's the same field. It's not duplicate data. The other thing that I want to point out here is you do have a checkbox, architect contract executed. I'm not going to check this at the moment, because when you do check this, it is going to freeze your contracted dates down here. So this is a little sort of out of order in terms of how you initially would be putting the data in, but there's a reason for that. So theoretically, right, you're going to come in initially when you have a deal, and you're going to set up all of the contacts that are appropriate. You're going to put in whatever your design and budget construction is, your design and construction budget is, what you guys are estimating, right?
Let's play that out, Rhonda. Go ahead and put $65 million there. And so what that is, folks, is that $65 million is what we estimate the construction cost to be, and the developer is currently carrying $62 million in their pro forma. So that will show a $3 million gap between what we're projecting and where the developer is projecting. On this one, it's not, we're really close, or we were a year ago when we costed this out, but I'm going to suggest that, you know, time has increased. We've incurred some inflation. So current projections today are 65, and Esposia is still carrying 62 in her performance. So this will show as a gap. But Satya, you can go back and kind of validate that. But that'll help, you know, I think walking through this and just showing how we could populate it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip over this middle section. So this is, once you've set up a deal, this construction completion section here is what you're gonna have to do on a regular basis, right? The rest of this is sort of a one-time setup, populate the data, and then just update whatever has changed. So if you scroll past this, you've got the design and construction schedule. And you notice all of these fields in the phase and milestones are locked, and that is because they are being pulled from other places in CRM. So this is the project lifecycle. This is currently in pre-development. As the project lifecycle moves from pre-development to closing to construction, this will change with that. The phase is driven off of these dates. It is a calculation, and let me get down to where, 1 second. The calculation is included in the user guide that I sent to Jeff, and I'll show you at the end how to get to the user guide online. So this is a calculation based off of these dates. So you've got these 6 milestone dates for construction and design and construction, and you're going to put in, initially you've got a contracted date, and then you'll end up with a current estimate, and then you'll actually end up with actuals, right? So the original contracted date, I'm sure we don't have these, but I'm just going to put dates in for the moment so I can show you what happens.
Yeah, so this is when we're putting together a program. We haven't quite contracted for it yet, but we're saying, you know, we think this is when it's going to happen. So it's easier, Rhonda, if you'll start at the bottom and say the contract start date or the end date, that's fine, December 15th, 2022, match what's in the pro forma. Yep. And then the contract start date is December 15th, 2020. And then we would need our permitting documents ideally 3 months ahead of that. So call it October 15th, 2020.
That's only 2 months.
Okay, September 15th, 2020. And then construction documents, 6/15/2020. And then schematic design would be, let's call it 4 months before that, 2/15/2020. Whoa, those are backwards.
Yeah, why
Uh,
are these?
Yeah, we need to reverse those. Make schematic design December 15th, 2019.
December 15th, 2019.
Yep, and then design development will be, call it March 15th, 2020. Schematic design should be first, not design development. So that's something we'll have to change in the format.
Mhm. I'm just making a note of that. Hold on one second. So the other thing that you will notice, with the exception of those first two fields, which are backwards, is that when I put in my contracted dates initially, because my estimated date was empty, it also put that contracted date into the estimated date. Once you have a date in your estimated date, you'll have to update it from that point forward. So this should be 2/15/2020, right? Is what you said?
Close enough. Yep, perfect.
So the estimated got moved around, but the didn't. But the contracted didn't. So I made a note of that. I'll get that fixed. Oops. Okay. So save. So now you've got these contracted and estimated dates. It is important that your estimated dates and your contracted dates be filled in prior to you tracking any construction completion, because it's going to calculate percentages complete based off of dollars and percentages complete based off of time. So if you don't have those dates filled in, it won't be able to calculate that percentage completion. So we put it here in red. We still probably just be on the lookout. We may end up having to add some more messaging to you, because even those of us who have built it and know how it works still get hung up on that. So once you have these dates in, and assuming that your architect contract has now been executed, if you check this box, you will notice now that these contracted dates are locked. And that is so that we sort of preserve what was in the contract. You still have the ability to change these estimates, and we want you to change these estimates as things go on. But the contracted dates will always remain the same. If for some reason you forgot and didn't get these updated before you clicked that little box up at the top, you can always unclick it, fix your dates to match your contract, and then go back and click it again. So that is the information that you have to set sort of initially for a deal, right? And so now we're going to manage this on an ongoing basis. And I don't know, Jeff, what kind of frequency you're asking them to update, monthly, quarterly? I don't know.
As it changes, it needs to be as it changes.
Okay. So this is the main place that you're going to track construction completion information on a regular basis. And so once you've saved this record, got your dates in for your design and construction schedule, you can come in here and just click on this little plus to add a new record. And when you go to add a new record, it's going to come up, default to the project that you're on, and it defaults to this as of date of today. Now, if you're entering after the fact, you can change this. So let's say I've got information and I'm entering it as of 6:30. I got a report from my contractor, and so I'm going to enter this as of 6:30. So you're going to put in an amount earned to date, let's say $1 million. Contingency accrued to date, let's only say 50,000 because we just started. projected contingency.
So call it 3.2.
And then you've got an actual completion percentage, right? So they're saying we are 10% done, let's say. And so I'm going to save this now. And you notice that it's calculated based off of time, that you are 93.73% complete, which is not right.
Well, it is right because we're starting way earlier on the construction than we anticipated. So that's why it's showing you.
Ah, okay. And then percentage in dollars is 1.61%. And then this is the balance that is due. So you can save and close this and it will bring you back here. And so the next time you come in, if it's at the end of the month or whenever it changes, you just come over here and you add another record and it will keep track of all of these. So whereas in the spreadsheet, you wrote over your data, in here, you're not writing over it. You're gonna just keep adding records based off of whatever your, 731. I'll delete these records so that you have, you don't have junk data.
Oh, yeah, okay.
What?
So just, did you guys if you go back to that screen, so you notice in our projected contingency, at the early start of this project, we're already projecting that we're going to use the full contingency amount. So when I gave her the 3.2, I meant for that to be the total contingency, but that's our projected contingency. So in other words, we spent 50, but we're projecting to spend 3.2 early on. We would never be there, but that's how those two are calculating, or will be used in the calculations.
That's where the 93% is coming from?
No, the 93%, I have to go back and look at the formula, but that has something to do with we're starting way before we're supposed to. So it's taken
It takes today into account.
Well, it takes the total duration of the project, which was, if you go back to when we set it up, go to the design construction. So it was supposed to start on December 15th, 2020 and end 2 years later. So you got call it 800 days, right? So because we're already started now, we've got almost 1,600 days to complete the job. And so that's why it's saying, well, you'll be done way in advance.
Can you forward date it? Just the...
You could. Okay.
I have a question on the record. I don't know if you want to take questions now or later, Rhonda.
I'm pretty much done.
Oh, can we?
Oh,
I have a question on the record page that we're doing.
Do you want me to open one of these?
Yeah, please.
And Ivy, if it's easier, we can grab one of your current deals and just see how it populates so we can check the math.
No, thanks.
Okay.
If you go down to source data, contract actual start date, that's construction, right? We're talking construction contract? Okay.
Yeah. So these two dates, this is a bug, which I've made a note of. These two dates should be pulling from those dates we entered.
Okay. Pro forma contingency budget, is that in the 61,955?
No.
No, it's not. So those two numbers there are actually from this screen here. So pro forma total budget, right? You've got your site work and your hard costs straight from the pro forma. And this is just a sum of these two numbers. And then you've got your contingency. So your contingency is not included in the 61.
Okay, so if you go back to the record detail page, so when we're entering earn to date, Is that earned on the pro forma or earned on pro forma and contingency? Is it overall total completed store to date?
Total completed store to date. So if you've got change orders that have been approved and billed, that goes in that number. So that would be what's in the draw of earned to date.
So theoretically, that if we had billed the entire contingency in this scenario, that would have the 50,000 in there already.
That's correct.
So if you had billed the whole contingency of 3,200, right, this would be 47.
Well, we only have 50 accrued, right? So the
Right now, but this is what this would look like.
No. It'll the earned to date will never be the projected. That's.
No. She's saying you spent the whole contingency.
Oh yeah. If we have spent the whole thing, yeah, that's right.
It would look like that.
But shouldn't that, the contingency, so the earn to date is from the pay application. And that's what we're paying them, and there's a box, right? Exactly that. But then the contract value changes by adding change orders. And the change orders are usually paid from the contingency, right?
That's correct.
So it's a little tricky, right? Because is there a place where the contract value is updated by the amount of change orders that we are adding?
So you would theoretically, in order to do this right, you would have to work with your development project manager for them to go and update the contract value. And they should be doing that anyway. As we approve change orders, that should update the contract value so that theoretically it all stays consistent. This
So
is,
what they-
again, we're merging now what we have been doing in a vacuum and what development has been doing in a vacuum. We're trying to bring those together. So, you guys, all you have to worry about is your earned to date. If I start to show towards the end of the project, if I've earned more than the contract value, my first question is going to be, why is that? You're going to say, well, they haven't added the change orders to the contract value. We need to do that because we don't want to get into a position where we're paying a contractor more than we have contracted for.
Yeah.
Does
But
that
then also
amount show up here?
Say that again, Ivy.
Does the new amount show up on the screen so we just have it for reference?
It's on the cover screen.
We could make it be on the screen if that's helpful. So
Sure.
it's here.
it is.
It's
It is
here,
helpful.
right? And if they update it,
Mm-hmm.
does it change?
But it doesn't include contingency though.
But
It
if it's a
doesn't
change
because
order, it comes out of contingency and goes into the contract, right?
That's right.
So you
And
should theoretically see, as you approve change orders, right? If I'm understanding this correctly, as you approve change orders, communicated that to the project manager / finance person, right? And they updated the pro forma, you would begin to see your pro forma contingency go down and your pro forma total budget go up.
The budget goes down?
No, the budget should stay, it has to stay constant. Once we close a project, we've got $2.9 million in contingency. When we finish the project, we'll have 0 in contingency and we would have 64, whatever the 61995 plus 2935 is.
Isn't that what I just said?
Yeah, but you said the contingency goes down, the contingency budget goes down. We don't want to track it that way. We want to track against what we started with and see how we perform. So when you look at your, when you do the project logs down there, that's what we're doing is here's what we've approved as far as change orders, here's what we're projecting. Ideally, the sum of those two numbers should never exceed 2.935. Actually, ideally, the sum of those two numbers will be 80% of 2.935. That's our goal, right? To finish projects with less than 80% of the contingency spend.
Okay, so to your question, Ivy, what is it that you want to see on the other screen?
Mine was a very small question based on when I put in the earn to date.
Yeah.
If I could have a quick reference to make sure it is under at some percentage point under the complete, the updated contract value, including change orders.
Yep.
And then And then the little step to that is, you know, where you have a percentage complete field, that typically is a calculation on the pay app as a mathematical calculation. So
Yeah,
that doesn't need to be manually entered by us, right? For fear of making an error.
The percent complete actual, that is a mathematical calculation based on what you've got in the contract, what you billed against it. The percent complete time is based on what day it is.
I understand, but the actual has an asterisk next to it, meaning I have to manually input a.
Yes. But
That's right.
how would I get it?
That's right, because we want to, what we're trying to
Sorry,
get at, Ivy, is if you think the project is 20% complete, but the numbers are showing that it's only 5% complete, it's gonna bear out in the report. So, right, you've only billed 5% against the project. You've only got, 5% of the time expended, but you're suggesting that it's 20% complete. That's gonna flag as an inconsistency, right? We've got data that seems corrupt. I've got my professional saying, I think it's 20%, but all the data is suggesting a 5% complete.
Sorry, Jeff, let me just test my understanding on that. If I have a reference in this scenario, right, that the earn to date is 4,700 or 4.7, and I have a pay app in hand that says it's 2.4, right, or 2.35, it will auto calculate on the pay app 50% complete, right? That's what they're saying to us, right? They're billing half of the job.
That's right.
But here you want me to say, oh no, contractor, I don't think you're 50% complete. Somehow I feel like you're only 20% complete.
That's correct.
And I'm going to put in my opinion here. And if I think they're right, then it's going to be 50.
That's
Right.
correct.
So based on dollars, this should, if I'm understanding what you're saying, this percent complete of dollars should match what's on that
Hey, yeah.
pay app,
Got it. Okay. Okay.
right? So
Yep.
it is calculating based off of the dollars and it's calculating based off time. And then basically comparing those two numbers to what your opinion is in terms of realistically how far along you think they are.
And this also gives you guys a tool, right? So for instance, in this instance, say the data is right, he's 7.59% in terms of dollars, but he should be 93% in terms of time. You know that there's something wrong there, right? And so you guys can start to check this because it's going to do the calculation against the actual contractual time with their draw schedule, and it'll help you guys say, yeah, that's about right, and then it's never going to line up exactly because you'll have pre-purchase of equipment or stored materials that's going to drive up the draw, but their percentage completes will be lagging until we get to the end.
Sorry. I'm
No, it's okay.
Is there a tracking mechanism for percentage of contingency spent or accrued?
Go back down to that record.
This record, is that what you're talking about?
Is that no? You go back up. I think what she's looking for is right there.
This balance?
Is that what you're looking?
Windows.
What was that? I did not hear you.
Aren't those coming from the other screen that you were just working on?
Yes, they are.
Same numbers.
It is the same numbers.
I think that what Abby is looking for is what is the total percentage of contingency that we have used up to date.
So as you can see, it's under balance percentage. So at 50,000, you'd use 1.7% of the contingency. At 3.2, you're 10% over the budgeted contingency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, so again, it's using this number as the denominator.
And that's what it should use. That's correct.
And then how
So
come,
another
sorry, go ahead.
a question about the earn to date. If we are paying the contractor from Yardley, right? There's a system. Shouldn't that be populated by the actual draw?
So this number up here, actual cost to date, we are going to pull from Yardi.
Oh.
But these are more, this is more of a historical tracking.
I got
Well,
it.
and it's real time. It's going to be ahead of Yardi because you guys are going to, as soon as you get the draw, you're going to enter this data in. It'll take it 60 days to hit Yardi.
Right.
Got it.
And
Okay.
then when
So-
I put, sorry,
No, go ahead.
when I put in projected contingency, that's way over, right? It's going to raise a flag somewhere.
Yep.
Is there an expectation that we note that, or is it just there and then we have a separate conversation about it?
Great point. So go to the pinch down at the bottom, construction comments and pinch points.
So these two things work very similar in that it's a running history, right? So you can put a little, click on this little plus. Sorry, my screen for some reason is really annoying me these days. So it defaults to today's date. Again, you can change that date if you choose to. It defaults to today's date and test comments, right? If I could spell. Save and close. And so you'll see a running history of any comments. Same thing with pinch points. You'll see a running history. You hit a plus, you enter your pinch points.
It
Continue.
doesn't necessarily tie it to that projected contingent. This is anything.
Right.
That's right. But, that's where you would say as a pinch point, looks like we're exceeding contingency this month. Here's why. Part of this, and, we can refine this as we go, Ivy. We could put that comment up there, but I'm just trying to keep this pretty as close to the spreadsheet as we've been before. Again, I'm trying to make small changes. So the idea is the comments are things that you guys are tracking early on. We had a foundation issue, could cause a delay in the schedule. The permit people came out and put a stop work order on the job. We're not getting gas from Commonwealth Edison. And then some of those are going to be pinch points as well. Commonwealth Edison is going to cause us a problem if we don't get it resolved by this date. Contingency's over. So how we use that is going to be a little bit individualized. I'm just looking for a place to insert it into the CRM module, similar to what we've done with our tracking spreadsheet.
And then when Con Ed does like utility delays and stuff like that happen, do we update the estimated time?
Yes, you would.
You would, so you would keep these updated as things change, right? The estimated. You're not ever going to touch those contracted again, right? Because it is what it was at the time.
So, careful, Rhonda. So a couple things. So, Ivy, let's just pretend that this is AO Flats, right? And we are going to take that 1215 and extend it by 3 months, right? Our projection now is that this project's going to be 3 months later. We can do that. It's going to flag it that it's behind the contract end date. But if we then choose to approve a change order that says, hey, contractor, we're going to give you a month and a half because of this gas line delay, then we go back and work with the project manager to update this contract end date in CRM so that we're all tracking on the same schedule. We're driving towards that completion date. If you have a valid reason to extend the contract date for a valid change order, that shouldn't hurt any of us, right? So the gas line, we're not committing to bringing these projects in accordance with the contract, the date we signed. We're committing to bringing it in accordance with the contract terms. So if the contractor gets a change order for time, we need to update these end dates so that we're judged appropriately. Ideally, we would never have, an estimated end date that's outside of our contractual end date. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Rhonda, you had just said if we wanted to change those contracted dates, you just uncheck that box. And
Yeah, so to his example, if you contracted that this was going to be 3 months, there's change orders or whatever, and everybody agrees that this is now going to be 3 months later, you would just come up here, uncheck that box, and change this now to 03/15/2023.
Mhm. That box says architect.
Yeah, we should, that's a good point. We should do, Rhonda, I don't know how hard this will be, but the architect contract should lock in through permitting documents, and then the construction contract should lock in the 2 contract dates. So we'd have architect contract executed, construction contract executed.
But if I go change those amounts, I'm not going to mess up what's in like whatever the project manager is doing.
No.
Forma.
No.
Well, the amounts
you're gonna
you
touch
would.
what's in the pro forma. If you change the dates in here, right? You're not, 2 things. You're not gonna, this doesn't go backwards to the pro forma, right? But also the project manager has a construction start and completion date, which are milestone dates. They are different in the system from your contract start and end date. Theoretically, they should be relatively the same, right? But they have their own milestones that they are updating. And we've brought them in for you guys to see them, but you can't change them.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I was getting at, is that we do need to, if you update your contract end date, right, and you say, hey, by contract, this is now March 15th, somebody needs to have a discussion with the project manager and say, you're going to miss this milestone. And they either need to update that milestone or put a note by it, and the same with us, right? We've got to be able to explain to our partners why we think we're going to have this lapse in what our milestone date was and our actual.
Shouldn't, Jeff, maybe it's too much, but shouldn't we track the substantial completion or the place in service? Because, I mean, if I learned anything is that it's not as important when the contract finishes, but those subsequent milestones that we have that, you need to hit a permanent CO to get the developer fee in. I mean, those kind of milestones are, I mean, unless you want us to track that in the pinch point.
So that's yeah, you're right. I'm being a little loose with the language. What we've tracked in our spreadsheet is our permission to occupy, and that we've said that our contract will end 30 days after. So Rhonda, can you make a note to add, permission to occupy in between contract start date, contract end date?
Contract end date is final completion, closeout docs in hand.
That's right. Which our goal is 30 to 60 days from permission to occupy or substantial completion. Not saying we're going to get there. I get the wrinkled faces. This is tough, right? These are those magical dates that we all move around. But if we don't track it, we're never going to be able to measure it. So we're just starting to kind of track that.
And then do we put in the actual completion dates, Rhonda, while you're on the screen?
Yes.
So when schematic design is complete.
Yep, you would put in that date.
Oh, that's just a writable field. I can just go right. Okay.
Yep, it's just like the others. You just type in the date.
And then that is roughly when we go through design review.
So that, you got to talk to Jeff about the definitions of these, right? But these actual dates are what drive this phase up here. So when I put in an actual date to design development, you see it changes the phase up here. The design.
That's when it's complete. Wait. What?
So I just put it, just basically, it doesn't matter whether the date's into the future or not. It will assume that the date is, if there's a date in here, then it's in the design development phase, meaning that you've finished this. These two are flip-flopped. You can't see where I'm pointing, but these two labels are flip-flopped.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
So imagine that this is schematic design, this first label, right? if I put in a date in here,
Mhm.
you notice it updates this because it thinks my schematic design is now done.
Okay.
The next thing is the design development. It's just, I got to get him to fix these two labels, the design development and schematic design.
So just for fun, Rhonda, put in date in for construction documents. Yeah, so it moved to the next one forward. That's right.
Mhm.
So as soon as you complete construction documents, by definition, you're in permitting documents, and that's what's updated the phase.
You look perplexed, Ivy.
No, I'm
Oh.
just want to, yeah. If you put in permitting documents, are you automatically in construction?
Let's all find out together. Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, it did. Okay. Yeah, so that
But
gets
it
a little
doesn't, you
wonky.
notice though, it does not touch the project life cycle. So this is just sort of your own little thing that we've built for design and development for those phases through that design.
Do we need to change that life cycle to construction when it goes into?
The project manager would need to be updating their milestones in order to change it to the life cycle of construction.
Okay.
So the last thing that I want to sort of spend a few minutes on is showing you how to run reports. So up here on this main red bar, if you drop down this little arrow beside all projects and go to My Work, Reports, you've got two reports that we've built for you. One is the construction project log and one is the design project log. So we'll go into the design project log first. So this is basically a data dump in a lot of ways of all that data that you just filled in, right? So we've got the design dates here. We've got milestone dates, which are the project manager milestones, your key contacts, the pinch points and construction notes. It's going to pull whatever the latest note is that's been entered. You can filter this. So if I filter it by construction manager, drop this down, I'm going to stick to Safia since we updated that. So here is his portfolio. And so one of the things, there's two things about this report that if you're previewing it, you may care about. One is we've got some color coding here in terms of whether you're ahead or behind what you said. If it's green, that's good. If it's red, that's bad. And the other thing is you'll see these numbers are in blue. So let's say I'm on here on this report and I notice that something looks wrong. I can actually click right here and it's going to take me right back to that particular screen for that deal. I can update it, save it, and then come back to my report. You can find it and click this little green refresh button and it would refresh the data. So you have the ability, if you would prefer to look at it this way, some of these things, so on your view, your personal view, a lot of this stuff, because it's on child records, we can't bring into that view that you've made, the main one you go into. So if you chose to, you could actually drive right from this report if you wanted to do that, because you can drill right into what needs to be modified as well. And the construction log works the same way. So these reports were sort of fashioned after the spreadsheet. But again, these are easily changeable if once you guys really start working with this, decide that this is not working and you need some other data on this, we can certainly add that. So there's that report and the construction project log. So here's the construction project log. It has more of the budget data in here. Your contract start and end dates, your percentages completion, variances. It also includes your WMDE, opportunity contracting goals and actual percentages, and then the pitch points and construction notes. If you want to dump this, oh, he didn't do everything.
So yeah, I was going to say these aren't hot linked.
Yeah, they should be. Construction.
Can you print a PDF on this and pick and choose what columns you want?
So what you can do, you have the ability to filter it. You can filter by region, construction manager, so you get just your deals. And here, this little export button, you can export it to a PDF, or you can export it to Excel, which is probably more what, if you export to PDF, it's just a PDF, right? But if you export it to Excel, hold on, it's opening. You've got it, and then you can modify,
Okay.
get rid of, like if you're trying to give something to somebody else, you can get rid of the columns that they don't care about,
Cool.
or that you don't want to show them.
Cool.
So that's really all I had. Questions? Okay, so the last thing is in TCB Commons. If you go over here to user support, Microsoft Dynamics, and user guides. Jeff, did you send out the user guide to all of them?
Yes.
He sent it out, but if you need to get to it, it's here. User guide for construction monitoring, and it's just a PDF. You can open it, print it out, do whatever you need to do. And I'm always available for questions. Questions? You know where to find me? That's it.
So why don't we, set a goal for trying to use this, and then I'll take the Monday meeting back that I canceled or moved this morning. I'll grab that time slot, and we'll do kind of a question and answers, walk through a couple projects, talk through this as a team, and see how we're doing in progress. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Well, not good. That's probably a bad way to say it. Does that sound something that we can do?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So Mary, if you'll grab that time slot back and just do CRM review with everybody, I think that would be really beneficial. It'll help us to kind of start talking language too. What do we mean by complete? Is it really complete? Is it TCO? What about this? Should we track that? I think that would be a really great way to get feedback on this thing. And, there may be data out there that you guys want to track that I'm not thinking about, that we can, while we've got Rhonda kind of plugged into this and it's fresh, it's a little bit easier to make changes to this.
So Jeff, the analysis still takes place somewhere else, right? This is just like key pieces of information, right? We're not giving you long, drawn out explanations as to why things are happening.
No, I think that's still going to be in the one-to-one. This is, ideally, and that's another important point. Everybody in the company can now review this report and this data, right? Previously, we kind of kept it in our own little world and we only shared what we wanted to, so it didn't matter what went on the report. But now, the Sue McCanns, the Andys, the Will Woodleys, anybody that wants to can go grab this information. And so that's good in a lot of ways because it's more transparent, but it may cause us some challenges. If you think the job's only 20% complete and the developer thinks it's 50%, well, there's going to be a conflict there, but we should have that discussion. The same with the budgets, right? This is really going to start to highlight the difference between the design and construction budget and the pro forma budget, which we've struggled with in the past because we're projecting $3 million over. Everybody else is hearing the projects, on budget, and we're the only ones out here in the darkness saying that we're going to miss that. Well, now this information becomes readily available to everyone. So to your point, yes, the comments should be succinct and precise. The more detailed we can cover in our one-to-ones.
I'm just wondering if historical information is in here where I could pull up a really quick Boston price per square foot analysis. Is that available?
It is not yet, but that is exactly where I'm going. So now that we're tracking all of this information, I can run other reports to do a quick dollars per square foot on region, on new construction, on rehabs, things like that, which is why you guys are being asked to enter this data, the square footage and the dollars. We can also start to get an idea of what we're paying our architects on a percentage basis. So the analysis that we can do from this data is going to be really helpful in our business practice, but it's not automated yet. But eventually, yeah, I'm right where you are, Ivy. I want to be able to just click on a report that tells me what's my square footage cost for Boston the last 3 years, and it spit it out.
Yeah, my question about the budget and the cost, I think that at least it's difficult for me to marry the estimated and the actual cost at the moment of construction start, because in my experience, you know, what matters is the number that they carry in the pro forma, and that's what we have to have the contract for, right? For example, I don't know, in Oak Park, I know that it is 9.5, and that is what it has to be. So I'm not sure when the estimated and when the actual defer, or how long we can hold them. I know what you're looking for, which is to provide them a budget, but at least here in Chicago it has been kind of like the other way around.
Right. Well, so on that project right now, Gabby, you would be showing the 9.5, right? And the budget is 9.3. But ultimately, you're going to sign a contract, and that contractor is going to build that scope of documents for a number. That's when they come into alignment. You know, Southbridge is much the same way. If you look at the contractor's budget, he's $1 million over what we've agreed to.
Got it.
You know.
Okay.
Any other questions, thoughts? All right, so let's take a couple weeks, start populating it, and we'll have a check-in in that September meeting date and see how we're doing. By that time, I think it gives everybody plenty of time to try to populate their deals. And feel free to call me with questions in the meantime. Not you know, don't sit around and wait a month if we got something we need to fix now.
Yeah, so I will write up the things that we talked about, send those over to you, Jeff, just to make sure I captured everything, and then I can get Graham. So don't, I'll send out an email, but don't freak out if all of a sudden you start seeing some different fields on there. So these ones where you want additional fields added, we'll get them added as quickly as we can.
Okay.
And if you have trouble getting in or maneuvering around, or you get lost or any of that, feel free to reach out to me.
Right. And Rhonda, you're going to email me the recording, right?
I will email you the recording.
All right. As soon as she emails that to me, then I'll get it put on the Dropbox for everybody, so they have that as a fallback.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.